The impossible plan. If you think you've seen the perfect escape, think again. Hit subscribe, drop a like, and buckle up, because this is the story the FBI still can't explain. The night was cold, fog pressing down on San Francisco Bay like a suffocating blanket. June 11th, 1962. Guards patrolled the narrow corridors of Alcatraz, the Rock, America's most secure prison, built to be escape-proof. But somewhere in cell block B, 3 inmates, Frank Morris and brothers John and Clarence Anglin, were already defying the impossible. By dawn, the guards found nothing unusual. Breakfast was served, metal trays clattering through the bars. It wasn't until the 5:30 head count that Officer Paul Madigan noticed something strange: a prisoner who wouldn't wake up. He tapped the man's shoulder. The head rolled to the side, revealing not flesh, but a papier-mâché mask painted to look human. The hair? Real, torn from barbershop clippings. The face? Crafted with toilet paper, soap, and sheer desperation. When the sirens wailed across the bay, chaos erupted. Boats searched the waters. Helicopters cut through fog. But the men were gone, vanished into the darkness, leaving only a hole behind their cells, a crude raft made of raincoats, and a mystery that would haunt America for decades. The FBI arrived within hours. Lead Agent Richard Wilbur called it the most sophisticated prison escape in U.S. history. The tunnels carved behind the cell walls were so narrow, so precise, that they'd taken months, maybe years of planning. Hidden within the music of the prison's daily life, the sound of spoons scraping concrete, drowned by Morris's accordion. But what baffled investigators most wasn't the escape itself, it was the silence that followed. No ransom notes, no sightings, no bodies. The current around Alcatraz was merciless, with temperatures low enough to kill within minutes. The Coast Guard insisted no one could have survived. Yet, not a single corpse was ever found. Inside Morris's cell, agents discovered something that changed everything: a map drawn on torn pages from a magazine. It showed the direction of the Golden Gate Bridge, not toward the mainland, but north, toward Angel Island. And written faintly in pencil, almost erased, were 2 words: "Wait here." Investigators soon uncovered that the Anglin brothers' family in Florida had been receiving strange postcards, blank and signed, postmarked from different cities across the U.S. One letter, found years later, read, "We made it, just like we said. Tell Mom it's safe." Was it a prank? Or had the impossible actually happened? Agent Wilbur ordered a dive team to search around Angel Island. Hours later, they found something caught in the rocks, a piece of the raincoat raft. Inside, a button from a prison uniform and what looked like human footprints leading toward the treeline. But just as they were preparing to search deeper into the island, a dense fog rolled in again, swallowing everything. By the time they returned at sunrise, the footprints were gone. Only one thing remained: a small, water-damaged photograph lying in the mud. It showed 2 men standing beside an old pickup truck, smiling. The date on the back, 1975. But when the FBI developed the image under enhanced light, what they saw made every agent in the room fall silent. The man on the right bore an unmistakable resemblance to Frank Morris. Shadows of the escape. The photograph from 1975 sent shockwaves through the FBI. Frank Morris, smiling, alive, decades after the unsurvivable escape. But where? And how? Agents were determined to follow every lead, but every trail seemed to vanish as quickly as it appeared. Investigators turned their attention to the Anglin brothers' family. Interviews with distant relatives revealed whispered rumors, strange trips up the coast, visits to remote cabins in the Pacific Northwest, and a sudden interest in boating and survival skills. Every detail suggested one thing: these men had planned for life beyond the prison walls with meticulous precision. Meanwhile, forensic teams analyzed the remnants of the raft and the footprints near Angel Island. Surprisingly, the materials used were of high quality: industrial-grade raincoats, nails, and homemade adhesive strong enough to survive the violent currents of San Francisco Bay. The craftsmanship suggested not desperation, but expertise. Whoever had escaped was not just lucky, they were prepared. As the investigation widened, a troubling pattern emerged. Witnesses reported sightings of men matching the escapees' descriptions in small towns along the West Coast. A man with a distinctive crooked nose buying fishing supplies in Oregon, another in a diner in Washington paying an exact change. Each report was fleeting, frustratingly inconclusive. Yet a sense of organized movement became clear. They weren't hiding randomly. They were creating a network of survival. In 1979, an anonymous tip led the FBI to a secluded cabin in Northern California. The cabin was abandoned, but inside, agents found remnants of a long-term hideout, canned goods with decades-old labels, sketches of the bay, and journals chronicling the escape. The last entry, dated 1976, was particularly chilling. "We made it further than anyone imagined. But trust is a knife. Even family can turn. Never let them see you. Never let them follow." This suggested betrayal. Someone close to the escapees might have tipped off authorities, or worse, sought to manipulate their freedom for personal gain. Every layer of the investigation seemed to add another twist. The men weren't just escaping prison. They were outsmarting the law for life. Then, in a stunning revelation, a retired prison guard came forward. He claimed that months after the escape, he'd seen Morris near a marina, handing a thick envelope to an unidentified man. The guard's memory was shaky, but he was certain of one detail: Frank had been smiling. Not the anxious smile of a fugitive, but the calm, knowing smile of someone who had beaten an entire system. The FBI launched covert surveillance on coastal towns for months, but the escapees remained ghosts. They had disappeared completely, leaving only the trail of cryptic evidence, sightings, and whispers. To this day, Alcatraz's most famous inmates are still officially listed as missing, and the case is considered cold. Yet, the legend persists. In 2018, a fisherman in the Pacific Northwest reported finding an old tin box floating near a riverbank. Inside were personal items, a pocket knife engraved with the initials FM, a faded photograph of the Anglin brothers, and a small, crumpled note. "We are free, but freedom is not always visible. Watch carefully." The FBI has never confirmed the authenticity of the box. But one thing is certain: the Great Escape from Alcatraz remains a haunting enigma. The men who defied one of the most secure prisons in history left a trail of questions that may never be answered. They were supposed to be dead. They weren't, and the shadows of their escape continue to haunt every officer who ever patrolled the Rock. Somewhere, decades later, Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers might still be out there, living the ultimate crime story, untouchable, unseen, and forever free. If you think this story was intense, you're not ready for the next one, hit subscribe so you don't miss it.